You were made to thrive. Have you ever pondered why some individuals seem to flourish effortlessly, while others struggle their entire lives without ever truly advancing? What no one has told you is that a spiritual code lies hidden within Psalm 1, and those who access it unlock a new reality, one defined by purpose, direction, and timely harvest. This psalm is far more than mere poetry. It's a vibrational blueprint. It's the law of attraction applied with divine wisdom. Napoleon Hill might have termed it a creative thought structure. Yet, the Bible had already revealed it all, demonstrating how to align mind, faith, and action to manifest authentic prosperity. If you sense you've been called to something greater, remain with us until the very end. For what you are about to uncover here has the power to transform your frequency, your mindset, and your future. The call to awakening. Nothing is coincidental. There comes a moment when the heavens touch the earth with a silent query. How long will you continue to disregard what has already been awakened within you? Once the spirit heeds the call, there is no reverting to the chaos disguised as routine. It is Psalm 1 knocking at the soul's door, proclaiming, "The hour has arrived to depart from the assembly of scoffers and join the congregation of the righteous." This is not merely decorative poetry. It is a vibrational code, a divine summons to align your identity with eternal truth. The Blessed One is not born complete. Rather, they are forged. It is one who discerns the voice of God amidst the clamor, breaks with the counsel of the wicked, and resolves to be like a planted tree, steadfast, deeply rooted in silence, yet perpetually growing. The call is spiritual, yet the response is pragmatic. Either you construct your mind with a defined purpose, or you will be swept away like rootless chaff. This is what the world does not impart to you, that true spiritual prosperity originates in the unseen, with a conscious decision. Awakening to this call means realizing you can no longer conceal yourself behind mental distraction. You cannot persist in nurturing shallow thoughts and expect timely fruit. The mind is the soil, the psalm, the seed, and those who neglect their mental architecture remain trapped in a loop of frustrated harvests. The awakening signifies a rupture with this cycle. It is to declare, enough. Enough of merely surviving without clarity of purpose. Enough of being guided by voices that know not your destiny. Now I ask you, how often have you sensed your soul yearned for more, yet your mind sabotaged you? This indicates a lack of inner alignment. When you fail to align your thoughts with what God has revealed to you, an energetic schism is created that obstructs aligned manifestation. It is not about outward prayer coupled with inner doubt. It is about faith applied with mental acuity, spiritual discipline, and inner mastery. It is about commencing each day by nurturing your vibrational identity rather than feeding anxiety. A straightforward exercise? Before retiring, recite Psalm 1 aloud. However, do not merely read it. Declare it as one reaffirming a spiritual covenant. Thereafter, inscribe a phrase, "I choose to be a tree, not dust." Repeat this for 21 days. Intentional repetition fosters subconscious reprogramming. This is the psychology of faith. This is guided autosuggestion. This is a profound, deeply rooted transformation of the mind. Sustained meditation proves more potent than any fleeting distraction. Those who heed the call from above naturally begin to distance themselves from all that defiles. Conversations shift, aspirations are refined, habits adapt. It is the spiritual magnetic field ascending. This marks the genesis of a growth journey, predicated not on blind exertion, but on spiritual resonance. Psalm 1 emerges as a roadmap, a sacred compass, an unseen framework guiding your steps along the righteous path. He who cultivates obedience reaps discernment. You were not called to be swayed by the wind. You were chosen to be steadfast, fruitful, and intentional. This signifies the dawn of inner rebirth. And it is no mere coincidence that the subsequent key precisely involves what you tolerate and what you choose to reject. For prosperity commences with segregation. The first key, disengagement from contamination. Every authentic beginning necessitates a rupture. One cannot experience spiritual prosperity while burdened by the counsel of the unrighteous. Psalm 1 is unequivocal. The blessed individual does not walk in their path, nor lingers amidst their distractions, nor sits in the assembly of scoffers. This severance is not arrogance, it is mental safeguarding. He who fails to discern what enters the mind creates vulnerabilities in the spiritual magnetic field. And where vulnerabilities exist, losses ensue. To separate oneself does not imply living in isolation. It signifies safeguarding one's mental architecture. A prosperous mind demands discernment. It necessitates disengagement from chaos masquerading as friendship, toxic content, and rootless voices. The assembly of scoffers might manifest in your WhatsApp group, in uncritically consumed videos, or even in well-intentioned advice from those who have never constructed anything substantial. Divine wisdom calls you to a pivotal decision. Will you exist as a rooted plant or as scattered dust? Napoleon Hill articulated the power of one's mental environment, and Psalm 1 corroborates this. A mind anchored in truth cannot be defiled by the fluctuating opinions of the world. He who desires to bear fruit in due season must filter what they internalize. A practical illustration? Undertake a 7-day vocal detox. Sever ties with conversations that deplete you. Curtail the consumption of superficial content. And in its stead, heed the voice of God, that which directs, confronts, and edifies. This exchange alters your frequency. You cannot fathom the extent to which mental distraction has plundered your divine harvest. Occasionally, a mere yes to erroneous counsel can delay your season for years. The unrighteous individual is not merely the malevolent one. It is one who lives devoid of spiritual consciousness, one who speaks without foundation, one who inspires without roots. The righteous, conversely, listens with sagacity and rejects with fortitude. They understand that prosperity is incompatible with passivity. There are things that need to be uprooted. And what if I told you that many stagnations you label as waiting on God are, in fact, tolerance for what He has already asked you to sever? Separation is painful because it disrupts bonds, comfort zones, and emotional memories. But without this first key, the cycle of growth never comes to full fruition. It is the cleansing of the mental ground before receiving the seed of eternal truth. It is the purging of beliefs that hinders the construction of purposeful thoughts. This separation requires deliberate action. It's not enough to merely sense that something is amiss. One must act, leaving environments that deplete your energy, breaking cycles that distort your vibrational identity, revoking mental contracts with thoughts that are incongruent with the path of the righteous. This is inner mastery. It is emotional fortitude. It is the innermost core declaring, "No longer here." The decision that seems arduous today is the liberation of tomorrow. And God honors those who choose alignment. You sense it, do you not? This urge for spiritual ascent, yet burdened by all that pulls you down. Psalm 1 reveals that prosperity begins where the association with the ungodly ceases. You cannot flourish if you are still nurturing what you ought to have uprooted. And this key paves the way for something even more powerful, the substitution of clamor for truth. Because where once there was mental cacophony, now enters the meditation upon the law of the Lord. The second key, meditation upon the law of the Lord. Following separation comes infilling. A mind devoid of clamor needs to be occupied with eternal truth. And Psalm 1 unequivocally states, "The Blessed One meditates on the law of the Lord day and night." This is not merely reading a verse out of obligation. It is a process of internal restructuring, of subconscious reprogramming. Continuous meditation becomes the new neural pathway, an unseen cycle of reinforcement that alters your spiritual magnetic field. To meditate on the Word is far more than merely reciting texts. It is to internalize eternal principles until they become your predominant thought. One who nourishes the mind with divine wisdom begins to emit a higher frequency. Do you know why? Because applied faith manifests as quantum action. The mental framework begins to be shaped by something eternal, not by ephemeral emotions. The righteous do not merely survive by chance. They prosper because they are nourished from within. Napoleon Hill asserted that a thought repeated with faith becomes reality. This is termed directed autosuggestion. Now imagine applying this to the word. Imagine daily recitation. The Lord knows the way of the righteous. I am a planted tree. Not as a soulless mantra, but as a vibrational affirmation with active consciousness. This practice fortifies inner mastery and awakens a prosperous mind. Biblical meditation is a spiritual discipline with eternal impact. For a practical illustration, select one verse per week. Handwrite it 3 times daily in silence. Recite it aloud upon waking and before sleep, and contemplate its application in real-life scenarios. Grappling with anxiety, meditate on cast all your anxiety on Him. Plagued by doubt, meditate on trust in the Lord with all your heart. This is applying Scripture as a code of energetic alignment. This is transforming mind and life through spiritual consciousness. What few teach you is that meditation serves as the invisible bedrock of spiritual prosperity. Without it, the mind becomes susceptible to mental distraction. Yet with it, you cultivate a profound root system that sustains fruit in due season. One who meditates filters. One who meditates endures. One who meditates flourishes. The word does not merely instruct. It recalibrates vibrational identity, purifies thoughts, and anchors the soul in the promises of eternal truth. Continuous meditation also safeguards you from emotional instability. While the unrighteous react, the righteous silence themselves and contemplate. While the world rushes, the Blessed One takes root. He understands that the secret lies not in haste, but in steadfastness. This daily practice is akin to a drop that hollows out stone, imperceptible initially, yet transformative over time. Inner alignment deepens progressively, and the mind becomes fertile ground for aligned manifestation. And what if I told you that the prosperity you seek commences with this simple habit? Meditating on the Word is more than spiritual. It is strategic. It is the most potent means to safeguard your mind, renew your mental focus, and activate your spiritual identity. And it is precisely this vibrational nourishment that prepares the mind to become what the psalm refers to as a tree planted by the waters. The third key, the mind as a planted tree. Psalm 1 presents a vibrant, pulsating metaphor imbued with divine wisdom. The righteous are like a tree planted by streams of water. This is not merely a beautiful image. It is a spiritual construct. It represents a mind anchored in eternal principles, nourished by a constant inner source. The tree does not rely on rainfall because it is perpetually connected to its source. Similarly, one who meditates on the Lord's law lives not by fleeting events, but by spiritual roots. The mind, like a planted tree, embodies a vibrational identity. It possesses depth, stability, and daily vibrational nourishment. And the fruit? It manifests in due season. Spiritual prosperity can never be forced. It is the natural consequence of a robust inner structure. Its leaf does not wither because of emotional steadfastness. And all that it undertakes prospers, not by chance, but through energetic alignment with eternal truth. The tree does not run, it abides. The tree is also silent. It does not need to proclaim its growth. Its very presence speaks volumes. So it is with the prosperous mind. It constructs in the unseen. It reprograms the subconscious through directed autosuggestion. It forges mental habits that sustain aligned manifestation. It remains unshaken by external winds, for it is anchored in the bedrock of divine wisdom. Its spiritual magnetic field remains elevated due to constant nourishment. Would you like a simple exercise to embody this? Each day upon awakening, declare, I am the tree rooted in truth. Subsequently, list 3 actions that fortify your roots: an edifying book, such as Think and Grow Rich, a verse for contemplation, and an act of faith. This is intentional repetition. This is inner mastery. The mind is shaped by what you cultivate, not by what you shun. The tree does not contend with the desert. It draws sustenance from the stream. This tree-like mind possesses elevated consciousness. It does not involve itself with the circle of scoffers, for it knows its mission. It seeks not external validation, but the guidance of God's voice. The righteous understands that being firmly planted is superior to merely being visible. The world seeks a stage. God seeks depth. The Blessed One chooses a solid foundation over temporary dazzle, and this choice alters everything, from emotional frequency to divine harvest. It is crucial to remember, a tree is not born planted, it is planted. Someone makes that decision. A conscious decision precedes its fruition. You do not become strong by accident. You become strong through perseverance, by refusing to depart from the presence, by reiterating truth when all around seems false, by constructing thoughts that anchor you, even when everything seems intent on uprooting you. This is invisible strength. This is applied faith. And now, with roots firmly established and the mind aligned, the comparison becomes inescapable. For the psalm reveals that while the righteous becomes like a tree, the wicked become like chaff. Two destinies, two mindsets, and a choice that must be made. Psalm 1 delineates a stark spiritual dichotomy that brooks no compromise. Either you are a tree planted or chaff carried by the wind. The chaff represents a mind untethered from its source, devoid of purpose, reactive to its environment. The wicked person is not merely one who commits evil, but one who lives without spiritual roots. Their mental framework is fragile. Their thoughts are scattered. Their existence is shaped by circumstances, not principles. And when the wind blows, it drifts, directionless. This chaff mind epitomizes mental distraction. It lives from news bite to news bite, from opinion to opinion, from impulse to impulse. Napoleon Hill termed this drifting, an unconscious deviation stemming from a lack of clarity of purpose. The wicked do not build with wisdom. They react. They adapt to chaos. They mingle among the scoffers and believe all is well. But the outcome is singular: an empty harvest, a weakened identity, and a complete absence of fruit in due season. Those who live as chaff do not perceive how much they are being carried away by voices that do not edify. One need only observe. A mind without continuous meditation is like an open field without a fence. Anything can enter. The absence of inner alignment creates fertile ground for confusion, anxiety, and inconstancy. Such an individual may even desire prosperity, yet lacks the mental framework to sustain what they seek. It is like attempting to retain water in one's hands. Everything slips away. Everything vanishes. A clear example of this? People who embark on multiple projects and complete none. Who pray today and lose heart tomorrow. Who speak of faith but live in fear. The chaff-like mind exists in a loop of initiation and abandonment. It lives awaiting an external signal to feel alive. But those who live externally die internally. There is no vibrance of faith in one who lacks emotional steadfastness. It is essential to acknowledge. To live as chaff is to live hostage to instability. And the truth is that many today are labeling as a time of waiting, what is in practice, a time of distraction. The chaff mind entertains itself with the superficial and forgets the essential. The righteous discern this. They shield their spiritual magnetic field with intentional mental habits. They silence the world to heed the voice of God. They renounce chaos to maintain an active consciousness. And for this reason, they do not lose their way. For those with roots endure. You sense when you are becoming chaff. It is when you lose mental focus, when you stray from meditating on the Lord's law, when you begin to heed the counsel of wicked individuals masquerading as experts. The divine harvest necessitates intentional safeguarding. Rejecting this state of unmindfulness is the crucial first step toward cultivating with deliberate purpose once more. For ultimately, you choose. Either you will be carried away by every shifting wind, or you will remain firmly planted where God has placed you. A mind of straw cannot endure spiritual reckoning. It cannot bear weight. It cannot sustain truth. And this is precisely why the next verse unveils a profound reality. A time will come when everything will be tested, and only those who have built with divine wisdom will persevere. The reckoning, the hour of truth. Psalm 1 explicitly states, "The wicked cannot withstand judgment. The hour of truth invariably arrives." And when it does, it is not a matter of superficiality, but of fundamental structure. A straw-like mind may deceive for a time. It might appear productive, intense, even spiritually active. Yet, as soon as the weight of adversity strikes, as soon as the wind of testing blows, all that lacks spiritual rootedness collapses. For spiritual judgment does not inquire about what you proclaim. It reveals the very foundation upon which you have been built. The righteous do not fear judgment because their house was erected upon bedrock. They possess clarity of purpose, mental discipline, and an unwavering vibrational identity. When pressures mount, and they invariably come for all, they do not crumble. Instead, they deepen their resolve. Because their faith is not merely performative, it is pragmatic. Their mind is not fragmented. It is nourished by continuous contemplation. Spiritual judgment exposes what was concealed. It reveals whether one lived by spiritual resonance or by mere appearance. Do you wish to see a salient example? Those who built through directed autosuggestion, energetic alignment, and inner mastery, they withstand criticism, setbacks, and scarcity. For their prosperity, consciousness is not contingent upon external factors. But those who live by mental dissipation, by hollow counsel, or in the company of scoffers, they collapse. Time exacts its truth. And judgment arrives as an unfiltered mirror reflecting spiritual reality without excuse. There is a moment when the assembly of the righteous convenes, and the wicked find no place within it. This is not exclusion. It is consequence. For those who rejected eternal truth cannot endure where the effulgence of spiritual consciousness shines. The righteous constructed their minds with intentional mental habits. The wicked lived by impulse. One bore fruit in due season, the other became mere dust. The divine harvest is just. It adheres to eternal principles, not ephemeral emotions. What many perceive as a wilderness may in fact be judgment cloaked as opportunity. This is the test that reveals whether you will stand firm or be swept away. And what will sustain you is not your strength, but your root. It is internalized divine wisdom. It is meditation on the law of the Lord that has become a mental framework. The blessed individual is indeed tested, but they have already triumphed even before the struggle, because they were trained in silence. The wicked fall because they built upon sand. Fragile beliefs, superficial faith, unstable emotional focus. The righteous remain because they firmly decided, "I am the tree rooted in truth." And this decision, repeated, nurtured, and practiced, becomes a shield. Spiritual judgment is inevitable, but whoever walks in the path of the righteous is prepared, not just externally, but internally, because the invisible always sustains the visible. Now tell me, when this judgment comes, and it comes for all, will you be rooted or merely presenting a facade? For the next step is too glorious to be lived on a weak foundation. God reveals the path solely to those prepared to walk alongside him. The reward. The path known by God's Psalm 1 concludes with an affirmation that is both a promise and an assurance. The Lord knows the way of the righteous. To know in this context transcends mere awareness. It is to approve. It is to protect. It is to guide. When God knows your path, he becomes the very ground upon which you tread. No matter the season, there is covering. There is direction. The righteous walk along an invisible route charted by eternal truth. This signifies the dynamic resonance of faith. It is spiritual resonance with divine purpose. This path known by God is not the easiest, but it is the most secure. The righteous do not walk by performance, and they walk by revelation. They walk where the voice of God has already trod. And even when the world does not comprehend their steps, divine wisdom sustains every decision. Their vibrational identity is aligned with heaven. They need not prove anything. They simply remain steadfast. Because they know, Those who live in the invisible manifest in the visible. Do you wish to experience this reward? Then understand. It is the fruit of conscious decision and spiritual constancy. The righteous do not deviate because they possess clarity of purpose. They do not barter their essence for ephemeral applause. They eschew mental distractions to preserve their inner edifice. And by doing so, they access something rare, the favor of God upon their path. It is not about shortcuts. It is about alignment. It is about walking even when no one is watching. A practical example: the righteous make decisions in secret that transform their lives publicly. He says no to unproductive discourse, to detrimental patterns, to alluring shortcuts. He says yes to sustained meditation, to subconscious reprogramming, to mental discipline. And the outcome manifests in due course: tangible fruits, a divine reaping, and emotional fortitude. For God honors those who live truthfully and corrects those who stray into delusion. Meanwhile, the unrighteous follow another path, one that appears sound to the natural eye, yet is ultimately ephemeral. They may even experience fleeting prosperity, but it is a prosperity devoid of root, structure, or permanence. As the psalm foretold, the way of the unrighteous shall perish. This is not a pronouncement of doom. It is an inevitable consequence. The vibrational frequency of falsehood inevitably collapses. Energy divorced from truth is inherently self-destructive. Yet the righteous endure like a tree planted by streams of water. The authentic recompense transcends mere material prosperity. It is profound inner peace. It is an awakened consciousness. It is the profound awareness that one's spiritual magnetic field is perfectly aligned with divine will. The righteous sleeps in tranquility, cultivates with deliberate intent, and reaps with honor. They do not navigate in darkness, for the divine illuminates their path. And this, my friend, is beyond estimation. For those acknowledged by the divine are guided by an unseen shield and constant direction. This profound recompense reveals a discernible pattern, a journey with a clear genesis, development, and culmination. It encompasses separation, meditation, alignment, steadfastness, and fruition. Collectively, these elements constitute a mental architecture that Napoleon Hill termed a structure of creative thought. And Psalm 1 elucidated this profound truth long before his time. The prosperous mind. Psalm 1 provides no facile shortcuts. Instead, it unveils a profound structure, a mental paradigm, a spiritual code capable of transmuting the intangible into a tangible, fruitful reality. It commences with separation, severing ties with the counsel of the unrighteous, disassociating from the assembly of scoffers, and purifying the fertile ground of the mind. Subsequently follows meditation upon the law of the Lord, serving as the daily sustenance for spiritual consciousness. This sequence is not arbitrary. Rather, it represents a divine architectural design intended to cultivate a prosperous mind and a life of unwavering stability. Observe the inherent cycle: separation, meditation, stability, fruition, permanence. This constitutes a spiritual architecture, an intricate blueprint for inner alignment that inevitably leads to harmonious manifestation. Napoleon Hill conceptualized this as thought energy in its creative essence. The Bible, however, refers to it as divine wisdom. The blessed individual does not circumvent any stages. Instead, they adhere to eternal principles. They comprehend that no divine harvest is achievable without a robust mental framework, nor can true permanence exist without deep, foundational roots. A prosperous mind is not forged through fleeting emotion, but through deliberate, consistent repetition. It entails the daily cultivation of aligned thoughts, nurtured by applied faith, and safeguarded by keen discernment. It is continuous meditation, guided self-suggestion, and unwavering clarity of purpose. This is not merely about positive thinking. It's fundamentally about thinking correctly. It involves aligning one's thoughts with eternal truth. Such an endeavor necessitates mental discipline, internal fortitude, and a deliberate disengagement from chaos as a way of life. Do you aspire to embody this? Practice the following exercise. Select 3 affirmations rooted in Psalm 1. Transcribe them daily. For instance, I am a tree firmly rooted in truth. I shun the path of scoffers. I meditate on the law of the Lord day and night. Articulate them aloud. Sense the resonance of faith igniting your spiritual identity. This seemingly simple habit constructs a robust framework, and such a framework underpins everything: emotion, decision, action, and eventual harvest. The righteous comprehend that all genuine fruition commences with the establishment of a solid foundation. It is futile to yearn for timely fruits if one's mind remains fragmented. Hence, he vigilantly guards his energy. He rigorously eschews mental distraction. He fortifies his roots with an inexhaustible inner wellspring. He sculpts his spiritual magnetic field through elevated thoughts. It is no mere coincidence that everything he undertakes flourishes, for all that he embodies has already been recalibrated with the divine. The architecture of the prosperous mind remains imperceptible to the eye, yet demonstrably palpable in its outcomes. It is founded not upon fleeting performance, but upon enduring permanence. It has been meticulously honed for the season of harvest. Consequently, when the fruit manifests, it does not falter. It sustains. It remains steadfast, like the tree, like the righteous, like one who has apprehended that the divine operates in the unseen realm before manifesting in the tangible. And now, having grasped this underlying structure, it becomes impossible not to regard the psalm with heightened attentiveness. For each verse encapsulates a code, an invitation to concrete practice, a summons to decisive action. And this is precisely what propels us to the subsequent phase, to reflect and to apply. Psalm 1 is not merely a text to be passively read. It is rather a code to be actively embodied. Each verse exacts a specific response, a pragmatic choice. Authentic spirituality does not reside in mere sentiment, but rather in the practical application of what one has assimilated. Reflection devoid of action is fundamentally illusory. The righteous are acutely aware of this truth. Consequently, he does not merely listen, he responds. He does not simply concur, he practices. He transmutes every spiritual principle into a mental habit, every truth into an invisible construct. It is at this juncture that faith transcends abstractness and evolves into a profound mental transformation. Meditation upon the Lord's law must invariably precipitate conscious action. The spiritual magnetic field aligns itself inextricably with daily practice. Comment as an act of faith. I am the tree rooted in truth. Write in the comments, affirmed with purpose. This is more than engagement. It's a spiritual declaration. When you affirm, you anchor your vibrational identity in heaven. A prosperous mind is the result of small, repeated decisions made with intention, separating oneself from the counsel of the wicked, choosing silence over the company of mockers, prioritizing eternal truth above fleeting voices. Those who do this bear fruit, and those who share this message sow wisdom. Share with those who need to awaken. The world is full of chaff, but a single tree planted with purpose can transform its entire surroundings. For a practical application, begin your day with a period of silence and reading. Read Psalm 1 slowly. Meditate on each phrase as if it were the voice of God speaking to you. Then write, "Today I choose to be a tree." Do this for 7 days. Intentional repetition initiates subconscious reprogramming. Active consciousness is elevated, and your spiritual frequency begins to vibrate with the energy of prosperity. Those who reflect but do not act enter into spiritual stagnation, and stagnation is fertile ground for the wicked. But those who reflect and act grow. Those who take a stand reap. Divine wisdom demands a response. Do not expect a divine harvest if you have not planted decision. God honors those who not only listen, but also move. And this is the true beginning of the journey of growth, making faith a practice, not just a beautiful idea. The psalm is clear. Those who do not guard their minds will be lost. Those who do not define their path will be carried away. Reflection must generate action, and action must be conscious. Those who live this way build a solid foundation, align their predominant thoughts with their inner source, and activate their spiritual identity. This is the blessed one. They do not await luck. They plant faith. They build upon spiritual principle. And if you feel ready for more, know this. There is a cycle of spiritual transformation that begins in the invisible, yet alters everything visible. And this cycle is about to be revealed. Everything begins in the invisible, an idea, a thought, a verse that enters the mind like a seed and begins to work in silence. Psalm 1 reveals a spiritual cycle as powerful as it is practical. Rejection, meditation, structure, manifestation, permanence. Those who understand this pattern comprehend the architecture of transformation. There is no quantum leap without renunciation. There is no spiritual prosperity without roots. The mind is the soil. The psalm is the seed. Rejection is the initial step. To break away from the counsel of the wicked, to close the soul's portals to mental distraction, to silence the chorus of mockers, then follows continuous meditation, day and night, until eternal truth becomes the predominant thought. This engenders mental structure, and structure sustains everything. It is akin to the foundation of a house, unseen by the eye, yet indispensable for permanence. The transformation of the mind commences there. Manifestation is not magical. It is the outcome of intentional repetition combined with applied faith. Vibrational identity aligns with the spiritual magnetic field, and what was merely a desire begins to flourish. Fruits in due season, the energy of prosperity, clarity of purpose, not through force, not through anxiety, but by spiritual synchronicity. The invisible edifice becomes visible, and the divine harvest comes as a response to inner alignment. But the cycle does not cease with fruition. The righteous one endures, because they understood that merely manifesting is insufficient. It is imperative to sustain, and only those with deep roots can sustain. Only those who safeguard their structure with mental habits and inner fortitude can sustain. The prosperous mind exists in a cycle of inner rebirth. It does not become complacent. It does not lose its way. It remains attuned to the voice of God, connected to the inner source, in continuous quantum action. This cycle functions as a spiritual code. It operates for those who apply it. It is not motivational. It is a manual. Psalm 1 does not merely stir emotion. It instructs. It reveals that the righteous one does not prosper by chance. They prosper because they built with wisdom, because they rejected what contaminates, because they nourished their soul through meditation, because they firmly established their foundation before seeking harvest. This is the psychology of faith. This is the mind as an instrument of manifestation aligned with heaven. Do you wish to live this cycle? Begin with a decision. Today I reject distraction. Today I meditate with intention. Today I construct my invisible structure. Today I manifest through faith. And today I choose to endure. This is the path of the righteous. This is the spiritual principle that transforms lives. It is not about a sudden miracle. It is about an intentional cycle. And whoever enters this flow does not turn back. For once you experience this frequency, everything else loses its savor. And if you have come this far, you already know. Psalm 1 is no ordinary psalm. It is a revealed code, a spiritual convocation, a blueprint for life. And now that you have activated this consciousness, the subsequent phase involves comprehending how to utilize all that you have received. Psalm 1 concludes, "Yet the cultivation of a prosperous mindset merely commences." You have not merely listened to a text. You have been granted a map, a code, a divine invitation to transcend stagnation and embark upon the path of the righteous imbued with structure, purpose, and profound spiritual roots. Now, the choice rests in your hands and in your strides. You choose to be a tree or dust. You choose to meditate or to be diverted. You choose to persevere or to dissipate. The righteous flourish in the unseen. The wicked dissipate into the wind. The divine harvest does not await the irresolute. It is for those who have resolutely chosen to bear fruit, even when all around appears volatile. Comment now with conscious intent. I am the tree firmly rooted in truth. Write this as a spiritual act. Every word you declare is a seed in the soil of your mind, and every comment is a root that delves deeper into eternal truth. Do not merely ponder. Declare. Write. Edify. Construction commences with the word. And today, you are activating your cycle of prosperity. You were created to yield fruit, not to exist as a leaf borne by the wind. This is your time to be root, to be foliage, to be steadfastness, to be tree. The tree does not supplicate for a season. It endures. And it endures because it is connected to the source. Subscribe to the channel now, but do so as a spiritual declaration that you are establishing yourself in fertile ground. Every new subscription here is another root being planted, another tree rising, and the forest of the righteous is burgeoning. Because ultimately, the tree planted by the stream does not depend on rain. It possesses a source, and he who possesses a source never withers.